All right. Are you a leader who is always wondering how in the world can I maximize my influence? Are you a leader who is wondering, am I spending too much time on myself? Should I be spending more time on others? Where should I be working and putting my efforts forth? Are you a person who has a deep, deep desire to help someone else, and yet you also feel sometimes unworthy to help them? Like, listen, I don't have all my stuff figured out. Who am I to help somebody else? Or are you a person who sometimes has been on the receiving end of somebody wanting to help you, and you're like, I don't feel good about accepting help from this person, and I'm not too sure why. Well, today I want to break down why that might be and some reasons why, when you might be trying to help somebody else transform or transform yourself, why it may feel clunky or difficult or like things are out of order. Because one of the things we do not realize is this: there are three key areas of transformation, and to be effective, they need to be done in the correct order. All right. My name is April Bragg. My husband, Hiram, and I, we work with entrepreneurs to help them build amazingly strong, financially profitable businesses that also benefit their family and don't take up all their time. So that is a partnership that my husband and I do together. And if you're curious about that, make sure you send us a message on Facebook. But let me get into the goody goodies here. Three key areas of transformation. Now, I have been a coach for a number of years now, and I have noticed that back in the day, before I understand about personal growth and personal transformation and coaching, all I knew was this: life was messy. It was difficult, and there was not enough time to go around. And I was always torn between, should I clean up the mess that's in my head? Should I clean up the mess that's in front of me in my house? Or should I be spending more time helping other people? What should I be doing here? What's more important? Where should I be spending my limited time? That was my big question. If you've ever been there, then you will find this so helpful, because I'm going to tell you exactly where to start. But perhaps you've already made some progress and you're like, oh, it feels like there's this constant need to help other people and also take care of myself. And I don't know how to balance that. Well, I want to help you with that too. Okay. How to maximize your influence is the way that I like to think about this. But what we're really talking about is that there are three key areas of transformation. And if we don't hit all three of these in the right order, if we get them out of order, then one of the problems is people are very, very resistant to our quote helping them. So in the Bible, there is this talk about this parable, the story. It talks about judge not that you be not judged. And then it goes into explaining, who are you, you hypocrite, to try to get a mote out of your neighbor's eye when you have a beam in your own. So those of us who are very motivated to help other people, we sometimes struggle with this. Am I being hypocritical or am I being helpful? Because I'm not perfect. And should I be even helping somebody when, things here are not perfect or things there are not perfect? When can I? But we also kind of know that we can't wait until we're perfect to help other people, because perfection does not exist. And so I just want to walk through this. This could, if done wrong, we can either feel like we are a hypocrite, we can feel like we are an imposter, or we can never manage to find the time to move outside of working on our own stuff to helping others. Or, and I've seen this a few times, um, we all know people who are so busy working on helping others that they never help themselves. We're going to work on this. All right. So, what are the three key areas of transformation? So, if you think about transformation as a whole, like transforming your life, you're like, well, where do I start? That is such a big, big topic. And transformation just means this change. Well, there are three areas. Once I tell you the three areas, then you'll be able to figure out where you want to start. It's going to almost be obvious. So the first area is inner transformation. The second area is what I like to call outer transformation. And then the third area is the others transformation. So inner, outer, others is my framework for how I think about the three areas of transformation. So when I'm talking to a client or when I'm coaching another coach about, working on their coaching skills or coaching from a biblical perspective, I help them think about your person as working. There's an inner part, there's an outer part, and then there's an others part. All right. What do I mean by inner, outer, others? Well, your inner part, that is your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. There's that verse in the Bible that says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then it goes on to say, and to love your neighbor as yourself. That is an example of inner versus outer. So the inner is us, our interior life. It's the way that where we are emotionally. One of the things that has been under-taught to us is being mature. As in we think about maturity as being an age thing, but we don't think about maturity as being also an emotional state. Am I immature or mature emotionally? Well, this is about inner transformation. Can I handle criticism without being destroyed by that? That would be a sign of emotional maturity. Can I see someone and differentiate between them and me? As in, do I need their approval? Do I need for them to agree with me and my opinions and my beliefs? Emotional immaturity versus emotional maturity. Here's another area, inner. Intellectual maturity versus immaturity. As in, do I know what I believe because I've studied and believed it, or have I just borrowed beliefs from somebody else and I haven't put any thought into it? So there's inner transformation. That's where you clean up all the stuff that's in your head, in your heart, in your soul, spiritually. Then there's outer transformation. This would be our body, our homes, our environments, our relationships with other people, those things that are very close to us. Like if we change ourselves on the inside, it immediately starts impacting those things on the outside. And those things on the outside can also influence us on the inside. For example, this is where I got the transformation a little bit backwards. I started working on outer versus inner. As in, I started cleaning up my home. My life felt so chaotic, so busy that I thought, I just need time and space. This is ridiculous. And so I went to minimalism and I cleared up the things in my home. And then I started saying no to activities in my schedule. What I didn't realize was the reason those things were there in the first place was because of the inner transformation that was lacking. As in, I was buying things so that I would have a measure of security, or because I was worried about running out, or because I was looking for a distraction. So my outer state of being cluttered and messy and unorganized was caused by and also a reflection of my inner state. So as I cleaned up my outer state, I actually had to clean up my inner state. If I was going to interstate, if I say that fast enough, it sounds like an interstate, the road, my inner being. So if I was going to throw stuff away, declutter on the outside, I first had to deal with ideas of scarcity versus abundance. Is it okay to throw this away? What if I need it again? So even before I could change something on the outside, there was a part of me that had to change on the inside. And so that is one of the reasons why this is so important, that we know the three key areas of transformation, because we need to do them in the right order. Because if we don't, the change won't last. All right. So there's the inner, then there's the outer, and then there's the others. So here's how an ideal transformation would go. Ideally, transformation. That sounds very perfectionist of the old April. Here's an effective way. So I am chaotic in my mind. I start questioning, what's important to me, what's not important to me. And as I get calm there, I then have the mental bandwidth to change my environment. Now, I will say this. The inner and the outer are very, very tightly linked together, as in it can feel like you start with the outer, but you have to change the inner for that to stay. So like I said, I use the example of decluttering. As I was starting to throw things away, I had to become a person that was not afraid, that knew that we'd have enough money in the future, that knew that I would not regret that. When I started saying no, opening up space in my calendar, I had to work on my people-pleasing tendencies. None of those things would have stayed permanent if I had not done the inner work. So if I would have said, well, I just say no because my husband tells me to say no, that wouldn't have stayed permanent. That means that I am dependent upon my husband, somebody else outside of me. That's not a transformation. That's just a temporary change. So we work on our inner. It's reflected in our outer environment. Oh, by the way, another example of this would be diet and exercise. Changes in our body that last are because we worked on the inner state. We became the person who cherishes her body, who exercises it, who takes care of it, who feeds it good foods, who doesn't overstuff, who doesn't eat her emotions, all those things. For the outside change to stay permanent, the inside has to be changing too. Relationships. This is an outer area. It might feel like that's an inner area. It's actually an outer area. How do you stop arguing, yelling at your kids? How do you stop arguing with your husband all the time? Well, you might try to start by just putting a hold on your tongue. But for that change to be permanent, you've got to go back into the inner state and clean up. Why am I yelling at my kids? Why do I want to argue with my husband about this? What is really going on? Why am I upset instead of calmly explaining the situation? Why am I getting frustrated instead of staying calm? What is going on here? All right. So, lesson number 1. If you're struggling with having change transformation in your outer area of life, like your relationships or your home or your body, that might be an indication that you haven't done enough work on the inner state. By the way, if you change your inner being and your outer being doesn't change, and you wish that it would, then there's something going on there, because inner always leads to outer. Okay. It either leads to, for example, a better outer relationship with everyone. It leads to more peace with everything. For example, you might work on the inner being and be like, oh, I don't need to lose weight. I need to be at peace with the way my body is. Okay. So it obviously that's an outer change. I mean, it's going to show up because you drop the desperation. Okay. So that's inner, that's outer. Let's go to the third categories, which is others. This is why we get really annoyed at taking advice from somebody when we find out that their inner life or their outer environment is not how we think it should be. So here's the example that I'm going to use from my own personal experience. You can use others. So imagine that when I was younger and I had a pastor and he told me, you need to do this. You need to marry this kind of guy. You need to be looking for this. You need to be doing this with your money. You need to be doing this. I grew up in a church where they had very strong opinions, which came across as beliefs, which was taught as biblical principle about how I should be doing my life. And it's all fine and good until you find out that the person telling you to do that is not actually doing it themselves. And you're like, what? Or you find out the person that's telling you, you need to fix this one little area. And you look back and you're like, wait, your home life is a mess. Your marriage is a mess. Your finances are a mess. This is why in the Bible, if you look at it, there's such a strong command for people who'd be pastors to have their home life in order. Not as in you need to be controlling everybody and having them under your thumb, but as in, if you, as a pastor, cannot hold your temper when working with your own children, if your children are not respecting you, if you do not have influence with them, then if you do not have the kind of home where you are taking care of things that are so directly tied to your area of responsibility, taking care of your family financially, or showing up in the fruit of the Spirit, then who are you to lead 100 other people? Because it won't work, as in you will not even have influence with them if you haven't done this work yourself. So it's one thing, you can share the principles from God's word, but if you haven't allowed them to make a difference in your own inner area and your own outer area, then you're not going to have the amount of influence with others. And that is the third area of transformation. So there's inner, there's outer, there's others. So when you are feeling driven, or maybe you're feeling guilty, like I should be doing more to help people. Maybe I should be signing up for more. Maybe I should. And I see this, oh my goodness, you guys, I see this in young mothers all the time. Oh, probably because they're sleep deprived. Work on that. But it's because when you are a mother, let me just say this honestly, when you are a mother with small children under your influence, you're responsible. You're literally responsible for keeping them alive every single day. And that is a lot of work some days with some kids. All right. But you are so in this learning and this growth mode and this, watching out for danger and what am I missing and what should I be focused on and what's important and what's not important and how can because you're in listening mode. You tend to take on things that you don't have to. So I kind of want to give you permission that you don't have to be worried about, am I doing enough for the environment? Am I doing enough for the homeless problem? Am I doing enough for whatever, somebody else is coming into your life saying, why aren't you doing anything about this? You get to set your own priorities. You get to look at your own life and say, what is my inner state? Is my inner state peaceful and calm and approaching this in a gratitude manner instead of a desperation manner, less manner of speaking? Or am I feeling very stressed and strained and it feels like this is one more thing? If it's the latter, this is so stressed and strained, one more thing, I want you to back up and say, no. I'm going to work on my inner and I'm going to work on my outer. And then I will have so much more to offer to others. And it's so true because number one, you're going to learn amazing lessons. The closer to home you work, number one, it's the harder, it's the more necessary, secondly. And thirdly, it actually frees up more time to then help others. So that is why we should do it in this order. Number one, we need to do it in the order of inner, outer, and others because change is more enduring when we go this direction. Two, it comes from better motivation. As in, we are not trying to help others out of scarcity, like, to prove that we're okay and that we are worthy of love or, to fulfill a hole in our own heart. We are actually helping. When we get to that third stage of helping others, we are helping them because we've already been helped. We're seeing the change and the benefit in our own life, and then we want to share it with others rather than trying to help others from guilt. I have so much and I should probably be helping them, but I also feel like I'm stressed and overwhelmed with what I have and I don't know what to do about that. Let's help others with the higher motivation. Always. Let's always check our motivation when we're helping others. Okay. It just works better. And then thirdly, it's going to be better received because people are going to be able to look at you and say, oh, wow, it did really work for you. I want what you have. All right. So for me, when I was in this decluttering stage where I decluttered my entire life, what I found was this. The more that I felt the benefit in my mental space, my head and my heart, and in the freeing up my calendar and freeing up my just physical space, I started having so much more time. And I thought, what can I do with this time? And it's like, help others. Well, how should I help others? Well, here's the thing. Help others with the exact same thing that you just did. That is when it becomes so much fun. And this is what I think it was Tony Robbins that talked about. How long do you have to wait to help others? Like how much do you have to know to help others? You just have to be 2 steps ahead of them. But you need to be 2 steps ahead of them in all 3 of these areas, inner, outer, and others. Okay. So don't try to start helping others. I know you're not doing this, but somebody young, this is why we laugh at people who try, young people who tried to give us parenting advice before they've had kids. Now, listen, they might actually have something very, very wise to say because they are so close to having been a kid themselves that they're saying, I wish that this is how my parents would have done things with me. So there is an aspect where we can listen and learn something there. But there's also an aspect where we're like, you don't even have kids. You don't understand the whole picture. You haven't been through it yet. And it's why we also crave advice and help from people who have been through it yet. Oh my goodness. You have a son and daughter just like I had a son and a daughter. Oh, Yours are, a few years older than mine. Tell me about that. How, what would you have done? What did you do? What did you wish you could change? All those things. So when you are looking to help others, we're just going to wrap this all up at one final thing. Number one, if you have done your areas of transformation, these three key areas, your inner life, your outer life, and then you are ready to help others. Ignore some of the imposter syndrome, ignore some of the doubts, because ironically, when you start helping others, guess what happens? You restart that inner transformation area. Oh my goodness. I mean, I did it for myself, but is it okay if I share this with others? Will this really help them? It helps keep on continuing the growth. And if you are a growth minded person, if you value growth as one of your values, then helping others actually restarts that inner transformation. And if you have done the inner transformation and the outer transformation, you will have so much more time to help others. So if you are a person that's saying, I wish I could help others more, but it feels like I don't have enough time, look at the inner, look at the outer. Why don't you have control of your time? That is an outer reflection of an inner being that there needs to be some transformation there. You've got some scarcity around time instead of an abundance mindset. All right. So I hope this has helped that when you want to maximize your influence with others, number one, good for you. Amazing. Number two, look back and say, what did I do on the inside that made a difference on the outside that then I can help them? If you will ask that one question, what did I do on the inside that made a difference on the outside that I can share with somebody else? That'll be huge, because so many times when people come to us, they're like, hey, what'd you do? They're looking for those tactics and those strategies. But it's the essence, it's the principles on the inside that you put into place that made the biggest difference. So you can tell them all day long, step one, I did this. Step two, I did this. Step three, I did this. For me, decluttering. First, I cleaned out my glasses. Then I did the plates. Then I did the How is that going to help anybody? Because what they're really asking, without actually wording it, is, how did you think about it that allowed you to change, that allowed you to see it differently? And for me, that very first transformation was when I realized, if I don't have all this stuff, I don't have to take care of all this stuff. Let's attack the problem that way. I don't have to hang on to everything to feel safe, is what I was basically realizing. I have enough. That was another thought. So, what did I think on the inside? What changed on the inside that produced a difference on the outside that I can then share with others to have more influence and to be a true blessing to them? All right, I hope this has helped. Now that you understand the three key areas of transformation, I hope that this has helped clear up, where do I start? Why does it seem like some things change and some things go back to being the same? And why is it that sometimes I just don't want to hear I don't want certain people to help me, but I do crave other people helping me. It's these three areas, and whether they've done the work in all three. All right. All right. This has been fun. I will talk to you